Utah teach science classes? Why should Utah science classes teach anything different about the cell than that which is taught, say, in New York? Well, one of those, if we understand the cell, there's a lot of great information to understand there. And it turns out, you probably have heard that the human genome, the DNA in us, is 98.6% the same as a chimpanzee. How many have heard that? Or numbers close by that? There's actually been, okay, almost all of us have heard that. Did you know that you can go to these databases on the internet where they store genetic information, and you can actually look up how long the length of a genome is for both the chimpanzee and a human. And you will find, okay, now when we said 98.6, how much variability do they say there is there if we're 98.6? About 1.4%, right? 1.4%? Okay, well, you will find if you look at the length of genes between these individuals, a human and a chimpanzee, these creatures, you'll find that based on subspecies and so forth, that the chimpanzee genome is 12.5% longer than the human genome. 12.5% longer. How do we fit 12.5% in 1.5? Or even if we go with one of these really liberal estimations of 96% the same, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. Well, they say, well, it's junk DNA. It's just, but the stuff that really is important in there is almost identical. Well, let's take a look at the Y chromosome. Now, the Y chromosome is just a guy thing, right? So sorry, ladies, we're going to leave you out of the discussion for a minute. But the Y chromosome is what makes a guy a guy. And the amazing thing about the Y chromosome, it is almost identical between every guy in this room. Almost. There's a little bit of change. The entire population, male population in the world, their Y chromosome, between me and the pygmies down in wherever they live, or wherever, the Y chromosome is almost identical, very, very similar. So they thought, oh, we've got to have really good similarity between a human and a chimpanzee, right? Well, guess what? When they looked at it, they said, okay, well, we know that things can move around. Let's allow for the genes to move anywhere on that chromosome. Well, if we find a gene and we can search for it and find it on the other chromosome, we'll call that a match. And, okay, over time, some things do shift a little bit. So if there's a little bit of shifting in the genes, that's okay. We'll call it a match if it's close, okay? Guess what they found out? They only found 70% similarity between a human and a chimpanzee on the chromosome. Only 70%. That's the same kind of similarity they expected between a human and a rooster. This genetic tree being proved by genetics is falling all apart. But don't pay any attention to that, because the idea has got to be maintained. Well, I don't have a whole lot of time left, and so we'll have to pick and choose what we can talk about. Let's talk about what we can do about this. Number one, you need to become friends with your board members, particularly the board member that is directly assigned to you. You need to know them. They need to know you. Okay? Another thing that you need to do, and by the way, I know this is not just an LDS group, and I apologize for having, a lot of LDS kind of material here. It's okay. We all believe in Jesus Christ. We all believe in creation and so forth, I think. I mean, some people may not, but that's all right. If you are LDS, I have put together some really great materials. Come see me after this thing, and there are some really great materials we can share if you're LDS. Sorry, I don't want to leave anyone out here. But anyway, getting back, you need to be friends with your board member. Okay, you need to comment to them. You need to send them an email and let them know that you have concern about these science standards. Now, in this thing that I handed out, I think it'll give you some good ideas of some of the problems with the science standards as they are. I mean, this was written mainly from not against the next generation science standards. It was because that really wasn't supposed to be the topic. Although every discussion in this meeting was really pushing the next generation science standards and leading people to that conclusion. And I ought to also say that the only thing that was considered as far as standards themselves were the next generation science standards or its predecessor from which it was devised, which is the K-12 framework for science education. And so that really is the only thing that this committee considered. Why? Because the body that is really responsible for putting together almost half the members is the State Board of Education. And whoever put that body together, they had pretty much a one mind, one ideal. In addition, the other members that came from both the House and the Senate, almost all were educators or in that same mindset where they have had a very good marketing campaign to sell the next generation science standards. In fact, for 3 months before they brought up the idea that they would vote on whether to even consider changing these science standards, they had people paraded out before the State Board of Education say, oh, these next generation science standards, well, actually the Utah Seed standards, they weren't going to admit that they were next generation science standards. The Utah Seed standards are so great because they have this way of teaching that's so good and everyone's learning these great things. Well, you know what? Science standards and teaching methods are two separate concepts. A teaching method is not a science standard. But why are they sticking science standards in with or teaching methods in with the science standards? Because they want to expand. They want to teach not only science, they want to teach what? The societal implications. The societal implications. Okay. Well, I think my time is fairly well up, and there's so much more I'd love to share with you. We only have time for a few things. We're going to have a little bit of question and answer, is that right? Or